Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 8, Text 12. Chapter entitled, The Lord Slays the King of the Demons. Jastoya mandabhagyokto madanyo jagadishvaraha kwaso yadisa sarvatra kasmatstambhena jushyate. Please chant. Yastvaya mandabhagyokto maranyo jagadishvaraha kwaso yadisa sarvatra kasmatstambhena jushyate. Jastvaya mandabhagyokto madanyo jagadishvaraha kwaso yadisa sarvatra kasmatstambhena jushyate. Jastvaya mandabhagyokto madanyo jagadishvaraha Ladies, Yataya mandabhagyokta maranya jagadishvara kwasa yadesa sarvatra kasmatstambhena jushyate. Yes, the one who Tvaya, by you, mandabhagya, O unfortunate one, ukta, described, mat anya, besides me, jagadishvaraha, the supreme controller of the universe, kwa, where, aso, that one, yadi, if, sa, he, sarvatra, everywhere, all pervading, kasmat, why, stambe, in the pillar before me, na jushyate, not seen. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. O most unfortunate Prahlad, you have always described a supreme being other than me, a supreme being who is above everything, who is the controller of everyone, and who is all-pervading. But where is he? If he is everywhere, then why is he not present before me in this pillar? Purport. Demons sometimes declare to a devotee that they cannot accept the existence of God because they cannot see him. But what the demon does not know is stated by the Lord himself in Bhagavad-Gita. Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samagritaha. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by yogamaya. The Lord is open to being seen by devotees, but non-devotees cannot see him. The qualification for seeing God is stated in Brahma Samhita 5:38. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santak sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti. The devotee who has developed a genuine love for Krishna can always see him everywhere, whereas a demon, not having a clear understanding of the Supreme Lord, cannot see him. When Hiranyakashipu was threatening to kill Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad certainly saw the column standing before him and his father, and he saw that the Lord was present in the pillar to encourage him not to fear his demoniac father's words. The Lord was present to protect him. Hiranyakashipu marked Prahlad's observation and asked him, "Where is your God?" Prahlad Maharaj replied, "He is everywhere." Then Hiranyakashipu asked, "Why is he not in this pillar before me?" Thus, in all circumstances, the devotees can always see the Supreme Lord, whereas the non-devotee cannot. Prahlad Maharaj has here been addressed by his father as the most unfortunate. Hiranyakashipu thought himself extremely fortunate because he possessed the property of the universe. Prahlad Maharaj, his legitimate son, was to have inherited this vast property. But because of his impudence, he was going to die at his father's hands. Therefore, the demoniac father considered Prahlad the most unfortunate because Prahlad would not be able to inherit his property. Hiranyakashipu did not know that Prahlad Maharaj was the most fortunate person within the three worlds because Prahlad Maharaj was protected by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such are the misunderstandings of demons. They do not know that the devotee is protected by the Lord in all circumstances. Kauntaya pratijanihi name bhakta pradashyati. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshurmaya Tamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Lankaya Degurum Yakipatamaham Bande Shri Gurum Didataram. Translation again. O most unfortunate Prahlad, you have always described a supreme being other than me, a supreme being who is above everything, who is the controller of everyone, and who is all-pervading. But where is he? If he is everywhere, then why is he not present before me in this pillar? That last sentence comes under the category of famous last words, because we already know what happens next. But the fact remains that this, although being anticlimactic for us, there are still millions of people who have not read Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is our challenge. In Mayapur, Srila Prabhupada gave a class, and the setting of the class in 1976, and of course we have our illustrious pujaris here somewhere from Mayapur. They know that on the altar at that time was Mayapur Chandra and Chota Radha Madhava. Nrsimhadev was there present only in the depiction, in the painting, small painting. But yet Srila Prabhupada lectured on Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, almost exclusively, 9th chapter, probably for the last year of his manifest pastimes. Exclusively. And in one class he said very clearly, our only shelter is Lord Nrsimhadev. Now, we had no large murti at that time, but yet he boldly declared, because he could understand the challenges. It is said that the spiritual master is Trikalagya. He can see past, present, and future. So even at that time, and before, there were some portents. Portents means some symptoms, some, how can you say, some signs that there could be trouble in the future. Because historically there was trouble in the past. Everyone knows the lessons of what happened in the Gaudiya Math. So Prabhupada was very keen to give us this sense of protection. Otherwise, why exclusively speaking from 7th canto Srimad Bhagavatam? 7th canto had not even been published. Prabhupada was reading from the galleys, the mock-ups, the translations, the edited But it was so important. He felt it was so important. What did we know? For us, it was just nectar, hearing something new. This is always, for us, a very special, to hear Srila Prabhupada, his translations. We would wait for them very eagerly. Because in those days, no internet, no mobile phones, no phones, period, even. I remember in Vrindavan, we were here, we had 2 telephones. One in the guest house and one in the Gurukula. That was it. No other means of communication. But Srila Prabhupada's words, the whole society waited to hear, to get someone coming back from Mayapur. Prabhupada just gave this nice class, and they would tell everyone. So this is how the information at that time, this is the Shruti. So we have this, now we have so much opportunity. But there's a danger there also. Because in those days, while we were waiting patiently, enthusiastically, sometimes impatiently to hear Srila Prabhupada, now anyone can go on the internet and read anything. And it's not all good. Where is the filter? Everyone's heard of a filter. You know that if you have children, you have to set the filter on your internet router so that the children don't inadvertently go to some website which would corrupt their innocent minds. But what about the innocent minds now of the devotees who are reading so many things? Prabhupada cautioned us. Be very careful what you're hearing from others. We know that this all appears to be nectar, especially during these festivals like Kartik. In Prabhupada's presence, he would tell the devotees not to go to certain outside activities. Why? Seems harmless. Some people dressed up playing as Krishna, portraying Ras Leela or something. Because lips touched by the milk touched by the lips of a serpent is poisonous. And there's a danger that someone is there waiting, just like yesterday some devotees, they changed some Lakshmi, and that information was immediately transmitted. And they were ambushed, and all their money was stolen. So this is a simple thing. Their spiritual life was not stolen, just their money. But how easy it is to be ambushed by people looking for some, because so many people are attracted to Krishna consciousness, but not everyone is fixed in his determination, in his conviction. And so there are many vultures, culture vultures. And they look like all the rest of the Vaishnavas. But they're going to whisper something, oh, we have some higher knowledge. You come and listen to us. Although Ras Leela is only 3-4 chapters in Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, everyone wants to jump to that only. They don't care to read the first 9 cantos. But if they can just hear these few chapters on Ras Leela, they think, oh, I'm very fortunate. So Prabhupada gave us these last lectures on Prahlad Maharaj so that we never feel, how can you say, unprotected. But one has to accept this very carefully. It is not, you can hear if one has the opportunity to listen to these lectures, Srila Prabhupada's last lectures in Mayapur, Vrindavan. He's very emotional when he's speaking about Prahlad Maharaj. He's speaking about the innocence of this 5-year-old boy. And you can see or feel that he's worried in the same way about the innocence of his disciples and this movement. Because at that time, the movement was barely, how old? 10 years old. So just like a small boy you want to protect. So Prabhupada was being very protective. But in his very practical way, this is something we have to appreciate. Apaniyachari bhakti, very practical. In the Adi Leela and Chaitanya Charitamrita, this is stressed frequently, that one has to be practical in devotional service. We have to examine things carefully. There's there's nature and execution. One understands what is the nature of devotional service. And then by this practice, he learns how to execute it in such a way to achieve the desired result. He has to become free from his material attachments. Otherwise, devotional service cannot take place. It is not possible. Tadarajas-tamo bhavo, kama lobha-dayasche. So we have this opportunity in Kartik to come to Krishna Balaram Mandir, the temple that Srila Prabhupada established for his followers. Although Vrindavan has grown since we were here in the early days, still this is the only shelter. This is the only shelter. One may visit other places. Certainly, Prabhupada spoke about them and encouraged. But it has to be taken carefully, because we are still very young spiritually. And this practice, it cannot be abandoned whimsically. That now I have advanced, I can just go jump in Radhakund and sport like the Brijbasis. This is not my birthright. This is artificial. Sometimes out of our immaturity, we have done these things in the past. But then we could understand how is this viewed. This is that point of practicing, is that we have to practice and act in such a way that others who may be observing us have the understanding, the gravity, what Srila Prabhupada was trying to impart to us. Because, Raja Vijay Rajagoyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Pratyaksha Bhagamam Dhamyam Susukam Kartimyam. It is joyful, it is everlasting, but it is not, you can say, immature. This joyfulness is coming from this relishing the association of devotees, the topics discussed, the Tushanti Cha, Ramanti Cha, these things. What were the activities that Prabhupada gave to us? When we would take prasadam, someone would read. At night before taking rest, someone would read Krishna book, take some light prasadam. Everything was accompanied. When we would distribute prasadam, someone would read to the entire public. He actually said that without this reading, without kirtan, then this prasadam distribution is useless. It is not a social activity. It has to be accompanied by kirtan. Otherwise it is a mundane activity. So there are so many, what sometimes we're accused of being the International Society for Rules and Regulations. But Prabhupada clarified this once, when a devotee asked, how can I make spiritual advancement? And he told them, by following all the little rules and regulations. So it is not just to keep us occupied like children, but it's to keep us conscious of the words of the spiritual master, because these are our guiding force. And so we say these things sometimes repeatedly, because unfortunately we see so much deviation that takes place. And even amongst so-called mature devotees. So what to speak of immature? So how is it that after 51 years, such things still happen? And it's because of this familiarity. Familiarity. This is a great danger. Prabhupada told us not to become too familiar with the deity or the spiritual master. He would say, don't get too close. So the reason is that we think that the spiritual master is just an ordinary person. That his words are not the key to my liberation, my spiritual advancement. And that I can take his words or any words. No, it's not the same. This is the first mistake. That I put Srila Prabhupada on the same platform as some other so-called guru, some Bhagavata, this person. This is very, and there's relativity. People don't want to hear this. They think, oh no, we have to be, how can you say, open-minded. We have to have some interreligious conference. And that may be there. But our point should never be compromised. And if you cannot be there and present it faithfully with conviction, then better not to go. Better not to appear in such forums. Because then they will think that, yes, these people are just like everyone else. Is that what we want? We're just another religion, another cult. So we should be very careful to guard the unique opportunity given to us by His divine grace. And, we would not have known about Hiranyakashipu, Lord Nrsimhadev, or any of these other pastimes. This is such a great benediction. We would not be here in Vrindavan, listening to and associating with, all of our senior God brothers and God sisters. But if we don't think about that in that context, if we think that this is just an ordinary social event, once a year we all come for Kartik, and then what do? We go to the restaurant, or we go here, and we talk here. No, it is not for that. It is not for socializing. It is the opportunity to associate with your God brothers and God sisters in the mood of sharing one's realizations. Everyone should be, the karmis, they have a term, that a rising tide lifts all boats. Does everyone understand? In the water, when the tide goes down, all the boats are dry. And when the river comes back, again they all float. So in this way, as a society, we remain strong in our association, in our shared realizations. We should not be afraid to hear others' realizations, especially amongst our God brothers and God sisters. Because this is the opportunity for us to sharpen our debating skills. Because we're not afraid. I am not perfect. I am ready to be corrected by my God brothers. That, no, you don't properly understand this point? Okay, so I am open. My dear God brother, please instruct me. Nobody has all the answers except Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. But sometimes we think, I'm not sure, we've told this story many times about the devotees in Los Angeles. The famous story. And the term came up called Gopi Bhava Club. Gopi Bhava. They were reading from Srila Prabhupada's just newly translated Chaitanya Charitamrita. And they were knowing that these are Srila Prabhupada's books, but they were concentrating on topics which were beyond their ability to comprehend in any meaningful way. What is that? nature, and execution. How does this allow me to continue to practice my devotional service with enthusiasm and competency? Will this enable me to preach to the general mass of people? No. So what is it for? What is the purpose? It is for some selfish purpose, ultimately. So Prabhupada gave them very clear instructions. He called them in, and after hearing from someone who had, and this is another key. It's not that some group can do something like this and it should just be, oh no, they're okay, just leave them be. No. One devotee told Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada immediately said, come, they should all come to my room. And he said, what is this that I'm hearing? And they excused themselves by saying, Srila Prabhupada, we're just reading from your books only. Because that was the first question. Because at that time, people were also reading from other books. And then he said, he gave the analogy that in a pharmacy, there are so many medicines on the shelves. You walk in, thousands of bottles, all with names that are 6 inches long. Nobody knows what they are. And if you think, I will just help myself to this medicine, I have some sickness, some disease, this material disease, then how will you be assured of the correct combination? You have no training. So Prabhupada used that analogy. Says, you cannot help yourself. You have to have the prescription by the physician. And then you have to have the expert compounder, the pharmacist. He will give you the medicine according to the physician. And then it will be specific. So then they could understand, yes, all of these things are there in Srila Prabhupada's books. Some things we will understand sooner, some things we will understand later. But it's guaranteed that we will understand if we are Yasya Devi Parabhaktir Yata Deve Tata Guru. This is the key. One has to have implicit faith in the spiritual master and Krishna. It's not by some academic qualification, not by some paper. You know. So Prabhupada gave very stern, he pounded the table. He said, first deserve and then desire. First deserve and then desire. So these words, this happened in 1975, but I hear these words constantly. Because some words we need to hear constantly, so we don't make the same mistake. The spiritual master is that which is the closest to your ear. So if you're hearing some mundane song, then that is your spiritual master. If you're hearing the chattering of the people talking Gramya Katha, then they are your spiritual masters. But if you're hearing Srila Prabhupada in your mind from the tape recorder, of course now we don't use tape recorders, but if you're hearing from, then that is your master's voice. It has to be that clear. It has to be that close. And one always has to be conscious of it. Because ultimately we are representing him. I am not my own person. That identity was gone when we took initiation. Now we are Prabhupada's men and women. That is our identification. And that's how he addressed us. And that's how he thought of us. And that's how he protected us. In every respect. But we have to first deserve and then desire. Just like he gave that also saying that just try to act in such a way that Krishna sees you. This is the key. Just try to act in such a way that Krishna sees you. We can't always see Krishna. We're seeing the deities every day. But I am not on that platform to appreciate the transcendental nature of the archa. I can philosophically comprehend. But do I see Krishna? No, I don't see Krishna. I see his representation. In the future, that is my great hope. But for now, we have to be satisfied with what our spiritual master has given us. And that when we read Krishna book, Srila Prabhupada was so expert that anyone who reads Krishna book, these pastimes of Krishna become alive. And that we see. Because that is much more intimate, to see within one's mind as he achieves certain levels of purification. He gets an appreciation. And that's there in Krishna book, in the prayers by the personified Vedas. Because Parikshit Maharaj asked, how can we understand Krishna with this material mind and senses? How is it possible? Very good question he's asked. This prayers by the personified Vedas is not just some children's story. Anyone who reads this particular chapter, he gains such a great appreciation for Srila Prabhupada's ability to put things in such clear and concise language that even such fools and rascals like myself can understand this concept that as we become purified, we gain that greater understanding. Because otherwise, it's not possible with the material mind and senses to realize Krishna. But, Sukadeva Goswami answered that, yes, by this purification process, one's mind and intelligence becomes purified. And then proportionally, one realizes more and more. So this is not difficult. But one has to remain in this, somehow absorbed in service, which allows one to experience this purification. If you're trying to avoid that activity by which you're purified, then how will it be achieved? If a person is thinking, no, I don't want to wash the pots. I don't want to clean it. I don't want to go on Sankirtan. So what is then just let me find something I can do. Then where is the challenge? Even the materialists say, no pain, no gain. This is clear in spiritual life also. One has to accept austerity. Austerity is the wealth of the Brahmanas. If we're simply trying to find some comfortable situation, but externally, outwardly, dress like a devotee, then what have we accomplished? Now this is even a fashion. In so many places you can go, and people are wearing kurta and chadar and harina, everything. It's just a fashion. We have made it popular. But it should not be just taken as a fashion. One has to put these things in the proper alignment. So that is that acharya. One has to practice and act in such a way that his realization, his austerity, everything will be there to assist him. And so that when there is a challenge, when there is a test by Krishna, what to speak of a test? Prahlad Maharaj was subjected to so many evils by his father, thrown off a cliff into a snake pit, burned, what else? Trampled by elephant, cut by spears. And Prabhupada also, he said in the class in Mayapur that Prahlad Maharaj was thinking, my father is just joking. This was the devotee. He said these exact words. Prahlad Maharaj was thinking, my father, he's just joking. Because small boy, 5-year-old boy is innocent. He's not ascribing any evil intent to his father. He said, this is my father. So we have to know that nothing that happens to us can be this extreme. But Lord Nrsingadev is there to protect us. He is our only shelter. So this is a great opportunity to, when we come to Vrindavan, to put into practice what we have studied for the entire year. Because Vrindavan is a test also. It's just like going to an institution of higher education. So now we have come onto the campus of the most prestigious spiritual institution, this Chaurasi Krosh, this Vrindavan Dham. And as soon as one enters, there is test after test after test. One's mind, his body, there'll be so many, how can you say, afflictions. Because always these things are there. Gadi Bhautik, Gadi Daivik. One cannot escape. But if he's thinking, oh, this is too austere, then what was his realization? Your realization should kick in at that time. That is the whole point. It's just like a bank account, transcendental bank account. All your austerity stored up. You may not get an opportunity to use it in your home, a place of comfort, of familiarity. When you come to Vrindavan, everything, or India in general, everything may seem like an endeavor. You have to watch where you eat, where you drink, who you speak to, haggle with the rickshawwallas, the shopkeepers. But you always have to behave properly in all circumstances. What do they say? You have to keep your cool. You have to maintain your cool. You have to be equipoised. So this is a test. And we're very fortunate to be here in Sri Vrindavan Dham under the watchful eye of Srila Prabhupada, who is resting here now since 1977. This is the 40th anniversary of Srila Prabhupada's disappearance. So we see that appearance and disappearance. For us, in one sense, there's no difference. But at the same time, for those of us who were here during Srila Prabhupada's manifest presence on the planet, we don't know how many more times we'll be able to come. So each one is very special. And hopefully many of our God brothers and God sisters will be able to come, those that are still present with us. Because every year we see less and less. This is just a fact. Everyone dies. And I'm not sure if there's any other points I can make in this regard. Lord Nrsingadev is our only shelter. That's the main thing. Prabhupada made it very strong. So we're very fond of Lord Nrsingadev, especially in Mayapur. Everyone comes very reverently because they understand that he's there for our protection, but not for any nonsense. Not that like the Christians, we go and we commit sinful activities and then we come before Lord Nrsingadev and beg forgiveness. It is not like that. There are some people who take shelter of Lord Nrsingadev for some ulterior motive. This is very bad. That should never be done. Any questions, comments, corrections? Who is this sannyasi here? He's asking questions.
In my personal liking, I have to thank you very much and congratulate you for the broad liberation of Askur. And I want you kindly, if you please could condense and elaborate that in one or two sentences regarding proper power of discrimination. And the reason for this question is that Vrindavan Maharaj being 5 years old, and as you clearly said, remember the Prabhupada's mentioned, he doesn't have the maturity, let's say, to discriminate. In the full version of Prabhupada mention of how there is devotees and non-devotees. Further in Chaitanya Charitamrita, after blessing Rupa and Sanatana, Mahaprabhu asked the Vaishnavas present to bless them. And then in the purport he says, there are many envious people in this Krishna consciousness movement. And he goes on explaining the principle of karma. So in this question, the involvement of power and discrimination in an age where basically is forbidden to discriminate, black and white is equal, and simultaneously the devotee that's founded by Vaishnava, and we say like myself, we need to not imitate Prahlad Maharaj. It's impossible. He's Mahabharata or Mahasabha. How one, if we can synthesize, fix this power of discrimination and love the people that hate their sins. And how to do that, because it's easy when we see this horrible materialistic society which leads to more and more impersonalism than ever. Don't discriminate, everything is one, is law. The intentions are right, but the means are wrong. And in our society we are all blended, even with so many years in the movement. Prabhupada, that you explained, is always expanding this in each one of us, our heart, of course, it's individual perception of who it is. And then we discover that we simply don't know so much as we think. So in that context, if we can give.
So Maharaj is asking about the power of discrimination according to one's level of realization. So in the immature condition, we are instructed to offer mental respect to everyone. This is our purpose. And for all of us, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us very clear instructions. Srinadapi Srinechana, Taro api Sahishana. We are lower than the straw in the street. So what is our position? We have no position. The straw in the street has no position. So we can offer all respects to others. But at the same time, we don't walk off the edge of a cliff, thinking, oh, the cliff is also my friend. So in Srimad Bhagavad-Gita, 10th chapter, Prabhupada describes that intelligence means to understand things in their proper perspective. So if one has read Bhagavad-Gita carefully, then he should have the power of discrimination according to his level of realization. And he knows, at least at this point, who to associate with and who not to associate with. He's very careful. He's guarding the kripa, the bhakti lata bij. We know this. That just like any tender creeper must be shielded, you go along the streets, you see that the PWD, they put these steel shields around every new tree so that the cows, the cars, the people, nobody can hurt them. So we have to erect this steel barrier. But that steel barrier is consisting of the proper, pure chanting of our japa. So if one is chanting his 16 rounds very diligently, then he will be protected. And it's not, I have no other means to protect myself. This is my armor. So it's like Karna. He had very special armor. Nothing could pierce. He had to be tricked to remove it so that he could be defeated. So don't let Maya trick you into removing your armor, your 16 rounds, giving you some excuse that, oh, I can't chant today, I'm sick, I'm tired, I'm jet lagged, I'm something. I won't chant, because on that day, that test will come. And if not that day, then the next day. The chanting of the holy names is our only Sangopangascha Parshadam, Yagnai Sankirtana Praya. Is it not just the weapons of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? They are also our weapons. He has given them to us. He has entrusted us with them. And we can use them in the proper way, or we can ignore them at our peril. It's like if there's an enemy coming and you have all the means to defeat the enemy, but you don't use it, or you don't know how to use it, then what is the use of that weapon? It is just like a paperweight. You go into some Indian office. Anyone who's been into any Indian office, I don't know about now, but back in the day, and they had all these glass paperweights, multicolored paperweights, these glass globes everywhere, holding papers down. The whole desk was nothing but paperweights. But the paperweight you could use as a weapon, I suppose. You could throw it at someone. But you have to know. But for us, if you have a weapon and you don't know how to use it, then it is just like a paperweight. Inefficient weapon. One has to use the holy name not for some material purpose. It is not that it is mine to abuse, but it is given to me. Harinam, initiation, the spiritual master gives you the holy name. What does he give it to you for? What is the purpose? The purpose is purification. The purpose is this self-purification. One has to cleanse the mirror of the heart. If he's just thinking, I'm repeating this because the spiritual master has told me, so mindless repetition. Sometimes we are accused by the materialists that these people, they're just chanting these mantras. They don't know anything. Actually, they don't know anything. They have no idea of the potency. Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Nama Shuddha Purna Mukta Brindavan Nama Namino. The holy name is complete. It is non-different than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything is there. Nama Shuddha Purna Mukta Brindavan Nama Namino. Everything is there. But we have to gain that appreciation. We have to have that faith that chanting will save me, protect me, and allow me to serve my spiritual master. So discrimination. But I only have to discriminate that one thing. There may be so many, this term, Kali Chela, everyone knows this term. Just like Manda Bhagya, we see the term here, most unfortunate. That's there. This is Kali Yuga. Manda Bhagya Upajuta, short-lived, most unfortunate, most unfortunate. So that is us. That is describing us. We are most unfortunate. But we have the opportunity to develop whatever is required for success in spiritual life if we remain connected to the spiritual master, his instructions, his society. This is not just some material, mundane association. I can come and go like a club. I pay my dues, and then I go someplace else. I don't like this club anymore. I like that club, down the block, down the road. That is foolishness. That term, Bhaktivinoda Thakur uses, Dharma Dwaji. Dharma Dwaji. So what does that mean, Dharma Dwaji? Very innocent term, means a flag of Dharma. But when applied to a person, it means someone who is simply, openly demonstrating superficially the symptoms of a devotee. Dharma Dwaji. He's dressing like this. Not necessarily malicious. He's not Kali Chela. Kali Chela is dangerous because he's actively malicious, trying to damage the society by his actions. And he's just like a devotee. And we were warned. Thakur Bhaktivinoda warned us. And the Dharma Dwaji, he seems a little more, how can you say, harmless. He's waving the flag of Dharma, but his motive is to be a participant in the superficial aspects of spiritual life only. Just like when Prabhupada first came to the West, he observed the Dr. Mishras. Dr. Mishra was one yogi on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. They used to call them uptown swamis. So they used to have, and that was because the uptown was the more affluent side of Manhattan, Upper West Side, Upper East Side, Upper West Side, where those who would go to just be part of the latest trend, the latest movement, they wanted to be there. That was their whole reason for participation, to be seen by others as being, I don't know, what did they say, cool. In the old days, they used to call it groovy. So they joined. So Prabhupada saw that what is there? Mostly just old women. Same thing with the Gaudiya Math in London. Mostly old women. Some young followers were there, and Prabhupada took a few, actually. But those are the Dharma Dwajis. They're just participating. It's a nice thing, you know, some social function. Talk about this yoga. So keep in mind that intelligence means to understand things in their proper perspective. And that perspective comes by practice. This rules and regulations. Don't take it as some neophyte principle. These rules and regulations are very sharp. And they can cut one very quickly if he's neglectful. That is why it is called, spiritual life is called the razor's edge. Razor's edge. A razor is a very useful implement. You shave very nicely. It has its purpose. But one mistake and there is blood. So spiritual life can be like that. If one is not careful, the offenses are there. Any other questions? Prabhu has the microphone. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, just like Prahlad Maharaj, he was meditating on Lord Vishnu. He was thinking that, and he was keeping his student also the holy name of Lord. And when Narasimha Hiranyakashipu asked, where is your Lord? He said, Lord is everywhere. Then he made the pillar and Lord Narasimha appeared from there. So even Prahlad Maharaj was thinking that Lord is everywhere, so Lord is coming in any form. So he knew this is the Lord. And Hiranyakashipu was afraid of that, who is this teacher who is coming here? So this is the difference what we can understand, that meditation always on Vishnu and Krishna, and Lord comes according to the whom each person was asking, so he found that according to that and Lord will together.
For us, that is a good point. We have no expectations that the Lord should appear before me according to my desire. The Lord appears of His own free will in all circumstances. And Prabhupada said, even Lakshmi Devi, she could not understand that this is my Lord. She had never seen, no one had seen. Prabhupada even mentions in that class in Mayapur that even Prahlad Maharaj had a doubt that this is my Lord. But then he could understand, because first of all, we were discussing yesterday privately that Prahlad Maharaj is not an ordinary person. He's Mahabhagavat. And Prabhupada said this with tears in his eyes and his throat completely choked, said he is Mahabhagavad. He's not 5-year-old boy. So how can we understand? But coming like this, at least in my immature capacity, to appreciate that the nature of a devotee who has that innocence, that purity, that he can see things in a similar way, that how God is everywhere. Sometimes we have to understand things from the eyes of a child. So perhaps in some future birth, we will get that great fortune to appear in the family of a devotee, whether as an insect, But we shouldn't have any expectations other than to please the Lord in all circumstances. And Krishna will appear by his own will. Any other questions, comments?
Hare Krishna. The book distributors upon the streets, they encounter a lot of atheists. When they do challenge them, the atheists would say, "Where is your God?" And answering them that you do not have the eyes is not satisfying. What would you, how do we address this problem?
Well, that's a good point, but that's the start of a very interesting conversation. If someone has the intelligence to ask that, I would say, you cannot see the closest thing to your eye, which is your eyelid. This is how Srila Prabhupada answered that question. You cannot see the closest thing to your eye. No one can see his eyelid. So how can you expect to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead with your imperfect vision, your imperfect senses? So we have opportunities to have discourse with intelligent people. We don't want to waste our time with those who are not capable. But we're always eager to engage those who ask intelligent questions. On the other hand, Srila Prabhupada told us, at least the book distributors, he said, what can your 3 minutes do in an encounter on the street? Your job, your service is to give him the book by hook or crook. Give him the book by hook or crook. Because my 3 minutes, how will that change his life necessarily? But if he gets that book, it is a ticking time bomb. And at some point it will explode. Because he will read it, someone in his family will read it. I first read a book like that sitting in someone's house. It was just sitting there on the shelf. So who knows where you'll find such nectar bombs. But they're everywhere. So that is our duty, to make this distribution all over the world in such a way that everyone comes in contact. Even there's one personality, material karmi, from our generation, Tom Petty. So he left his body yesterday. So he was a friend of George Harrison. So the Dandavats published a short clip on YouTube of him giving one of the, you can say, an introduction or a eulogy. He was being inducted into the Hall of Fame, whatever they call it, achievement. So he said very nice things about George Harrison, how he was a spiritual personality, how he was a gentleman, and how he was different from, the other Beatles and from many people that he had met. And the last thing he said, and he felt that George Harrison was watching. So he said, so George, we're here and we're pushing you into the Hall of Fame, and we want everyone to say Hare Krishna. So he, so this is, so that's what they said. So this whole auditorium full of these famous personalities all said, Hare Krishna. So this is very interesting. So we have done that which no one could believe could be done. But there is so much more yet to be done. It is not a time to be complacent. Not a time to think I am old, I am retired, I may die at any moment. Now is the time for action. Because like Srila Prabhupada, who left his family home and the comfort of Vrindavan and Radha Damodar to travel to the West. So this example, so now what should we do? We've all reached that same age. We never thought like this when we took initiation. How many years in the future will be? And now we are the same age. So what should we do? Should we do something less? Should we just sit around? Wait for some manifest destiny to hit us in the head? No. We have to take the opportunity to follow in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada and utilize every last drop of energy in his service. Then our lives will approach something of usefulness to him. Any other questions, comments? Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Prahlad Maharaj ki.
Ham Sarupa Prabhu ki.